you showing up in your relationship? This is such an interesting one, isn't it? I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking about whether we are always the same person or whether we are a different person depending on who we're with and who we're talking to. And I was having this conversation with one of my clients last week, and I said something, and then I kind of had to stop and think about it afterwards. And I've been just kind of like mulling it over a little bit, because in a way, I believe that we are all, we all behave differently depending on who we're with. And I used to believe that that difference was great. And I think that's why I kind of like stopped and hesitated about it, because in a way, I know, like from my own experience, I had many different personas. So like I'd always be like true to myself, but I would behave slightly differently depending on who I was with. And like there's that's still true to this day. And I think that's true for many people, because by virtue of a dynamic, by virtue of the person that you are with, you bring out something slightly different. So I'm not saying like it would be like a massive difference, but there is or maybe there is sometimes a massive difference, or maybe there's just a subtlety there. So like, for example, you'll behave differently at work or with your colleagues or with your clients than you would do with your best friend or with your husband or with your family or your parents or whatever. Like that's just kind of like how it goes. And I'm fascinated in this. This actually wasn't what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about how you show up in your relationship with your partner. But actually, the reason why I'm really interested in this now is because I know, as I said, like my much younger me, maybe not even that much younger, but my younger me, the differences in my personas would have been great. Whereas now, I'm a lot more comfortable in my own skin. I'm a lot more comfortable. I'm a lot more confident, and I'm a lot more accepting of me. And I think that's, for me personally, that's a really key part. So the way I show up now to my friends and my clients and my family, there's not really that much difference. I mean, obviously, depending on who the client is and the work that we're doing, I'm not obviously going to be as casual, but there are some clients that I am very casual with and I feel very much myself with, and equally with my friends too. But, you know, everybody gets a slightly different side of me. So thinking about the client that I was working with last week, thinking about somebody that I was speaking with today, how we show up in our relationships with our partner, and is that always beneficial? Now, with both of these ladies, I have in mind a difficult marital relationship, and that's really important for the sake of what I'm trying to think about today, what I'm talking about today, because how they both show up is not how they want to be showing up. And they both said something which I thought was really really telling for me, which was, I don't know what happens when he enters the room, but something just changes in me. And they both literally said exactly the same thing, which is what I've just been kind of sitting here thinking about prior to just doing this recording. So what is it about that dynamic? Like, what happens in that moment? And I've been there. Like, I completely get it. And it is something that we have to take responsibility for, and it is something that we have to own ourselves, because how we respond to people, like to a lesser degree, we can influence how other people behave and act towards us by virtue of how we act and behave towards them. So we all have a responsibility to bring out the best of the people that we are around. And if we're bringing out the worst of the people that we are with, then we have to take some ownership of that, and vice versa. So that's totally a two-way street. But ultimately, we are accountable for our own behaviour, and we are the only ones that are responsible for how we speak, how we behave, how we act, and what we think. And so, from that point of view, if there's something about our partner that brings out a side of our character that we don't like, we need to be able to understand that about ourselves in order to change the behaviour. And with these two clients in particular, I know there's another story going on there. And that's the bit that we need to tap into. We need to work out why certain people, it's not just exclusive to marital relationships or long-term relationships. This is about anybody in our circle where we feel we don't have complete control over how we are behaving or responding, and we need to take responsibility for that. So whether that is your partner, whether that is a friend, whether that's a family member or a colleague, if somebody is pushing your buttons and is able to influence you, then you need to work out what it is about their behaviour, what it is about their personality, what it is about the way that they're speaking to you. Like, what is it? Who do they remind you of? That's always a really interesting one. Not necessarily in their character, but when they behave a certain way, who does that remind you of, and why does that push your buttons? Then once you understand that, you can then start to control how you behave and respond, and ultimately change that dynamic. And because that's what we want ultimately, is we want to be able to feel like we are in control of our emotions. And when somebody else is in control, when we feel like somebody else is in control of our emotions, that's never a good place to be in. So it's always up to us to be able to determine how we want to behave and how we want to show up, ultimately who we want to be. Who do you want to be in your relationship, and how do you want to show up?